John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready! Down! Set! Hut! 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 Hut!
Hit me!
Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carrie, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, we are back. It is another edition of the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast, and the entire crew is here. Josh, Eddie, Bob, is that your name, Bob? As the Sooners find a way to show a brand new level of futility on defense. They lose at 48 to 45 yesterday in Dallas, and we are back in Norman for the postgame podcast. And ever since I woke up this morning, it has been a series of rumors, which I thought would probably happen, and that is that Mike Stoops is being fired. And look, I understand where it's coming from. I get it. It's kind of the same thing that happened after the Rose Bowl. Just rumor after rumor, and everyone is willing to spread it like wildfire because they want it to be true. It should be true. I'll say that to start off. I know that'll make Eddie happy. But at this time, after talking to a lot of people today, and here's the other thing. During this podcast, I'm not so sure that we couldn't get information regarding Mike Stoops, and there's my phone to prove it to you. I mean, there is turmoil going on right now inside the program, outside the program, and nothing is going to surprise me over the next 2 weeks what could possibly happen. But, right now, rumors are just rumors. I have spoken to a lot of different people, especially driving back from Dallas today. The only thing I can tell you right now is there's just a lot of people wondering what the hell's going on with the Oklahoma football program, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Boys, Josh, welcome to the postgame podcast.
Thanks for having me. I was looking up something just now because I know everybody wants to get into whether it's excuses or whatever. I said it yesterday immediately after the game. It's there's no debating anymore. There's no question. A change has to come. Now, how...
I'm going to say this. There's no excuses. We're not going to be talking about excuses today. We're not going to be talking about if they only had this or they only had that. The only thing we know is it's 6 games into the season, and the defense is as bad as it's been the entire season.
I don't understand how they continually get worse every week. And I almost wore all black today to come down here. So it'd be like a funeral. Or maybe this is just like a wake.
What did you do to your finger?
Cut it.
Was that Saturday night fun?
No.
Did you miss the wrist, Eddie? Is that what the deal was?
Yeah. No, just a little incident.
Okay. Was it opening a beer of some kind?
No, I cut it on like Wednesday of last week.
Oh, okay. All right. Just as a kind of staggering thing, Texas went from 78th in the country to total offense, and we can all soak that in, to 64th based off one game. That's 15 spots. You know how much you have to go above your average to jump that? You could go on and on about the stats and how ugly this whole thing is, but I mean that just blows my mind. That an offense that really, and that's the thing, you can get into all these things. Texas didn't do anything yesterday. They ran a bunch of screens, they ran slants, and they ran jump balls. There was nothing else happening in that game.
Well, when you pick up 3rd and 20, shit like that's going to happen. I want to know what the argument is, and I think there are two sides of it, and we'll probably lay it all out here over the course of the rest of the podcast. But I mean, if you make a move right now, you're going into a bye week, which makes sense. It would be the only time you're going to do it. But I don't know who they would have down there. That I don't think what I'm saying is you make a move now. I don't think that all of a sudden they're better when they go to Fort Worth in 2 weeks. I mean, I think it's a massive problem that has obviously been building for the last 6 years.
Is there any way you keep him through the end of the season? Is that a legit possibility that you sort of know that it's over? I mean, how do you keep those guys focused and mentally into it?
Well, that's the other thing is if you've lost the locker room, he doesn't need to be around the program on Monday if you've lost players in the locker room, and because that would be cancerous.
And when we were talking, Parnell Motley, that's what it sounded like. That's who I want to talk with. Neville Gallimore, Kenneth Mann, they're leaders. Kenneth Mann's one of the captains, but they phrase things in a way it's not like they're rehearsed or they're coached, but they figure out a way to say it without being too mean. Parnell Motley from Washington, D.C. is just a different kind of cat. He was as straight up and as honest as you can possibly get. And you could sense his frustration not only with himself, not only with his defense, but with the defensive staff. That looked like a guy who was ready to walk out of the program right now.
Well, I mean, you could argue that he wasn't even on the program to begin with on Saturday after he got picked on in the first series. But, I mean, and to not have Trey Brown out on the field, just mind-blowing. Once again, absolutely mind-blowing.
For him to not be out there in that final series, that's almost fireable in itself.
I don't understand it. Like they
what did he have to? He set up the final touchdown.
Right.
Like he made the play to give Oklahoma a chance to tie that damn game.
Right. They continually make dumbass decisions every time that they make a decision down there. They haven't made a good decision in a long time. And the volcano finally erupted yesterday. When you get your ass kicked.
I think it has to do more with the fact you guys are talking about decisions and who to play. And like, it's become this thing like, oh, well, they're not playing the right person. They need to play this guy because this guy isn't any good. But all we're doing is taking guys that should be developing into really good players and just waiting until they don't play, until they played enough games to, well, we say, well, that guy's just not any good. Like, how long is this going to continue to where you're just replacing people with new people? They're not developing players at Oklahoma on defense. They're not. And that's the biggest problem I see with the Mike Stoops tenure. It's been 7 years now. How many guys just get back? Like, Zach Sanchez could play from the moment he stepped on campus. Aaron Colvin could play from the moment he stepped on campus. How many guys can you point out to me, other than Obo Okoronkwo, that got better in the last 7 years from the moment they started to the moment they ended?
That's a sad thing. You have to think about it.
Like DJ Ward got better, but he wasn't a dominant player.
Yeah, nobody was expecting DJ Ward to be making plays on Sunday.
Well,
and he's obviously not.
There are, like, DJ Ward was recruited to play a scheme that changed. Like, he didn't make sense in what they were doing. And so you kind of give them a pass on him because he didn't fit what they were trying to do last year. But everybody that's there now, those were guys recruited to run that defense, and Oklahoma is one of the worst defenses in the country. I mean, just flat out is.
And I'm not sure if Kerr is going to play this, but I was very intrigued why, of all the people to single out, it was Mark Jackson. That one really confused me.
That was a little strange.
Because it seemed like he
got beat on that wheel route, and it was terrible, but I don't know why you are in that position in the first place, to be honest with you.
He's played pretty well through the first 6 games.
He's been one of their best players on defense.
And to kind of put him under the bus, when you're the one that wanted him for the 2016 class, this is sort of what Josh was saying. These are the guys you brought in specifically for this. You knew who he was. What did you think you were getting from him at this point?
Mark may be the finest example of he was recruited for this defense because that's what they told him all along. You're going to be our jack. You're going to be our guy. We want you to be that pass rusher on the outside. And God, guys, if there's any guy on this defense that's been pretty consistent week in and week out, it's been Mark Jackson.
Well, the reason he was getting criticized is because that he was basically the guy and the reason that they were running the option over him the entire game, and he wasn't big enough to hold his ground because he's not 270 pounds, and that was why he got thrown under the bus. But, I mean, basically, Mike after the game said, well, this was a game we had to have a four-man front, but we don't have the personnel to run a four-man front.
But they're multiple.
Yeah, they're not.
Well, why is it that every other defense can find a way? Like Ohio State, they had to go through that whole ruse of we're going to be a four-man front, and we're going back to that. Okay, well, they're better against a three-man front. Somehow, some way, other teams find a way. When it's not, like, I get that it probably is a better matchup for Texas to have a four-man front. I get that. But if you ran, I don't know, you can run Texas A&M out there tomorrow running a three-man front. They are not giving up that sort of game. There's no way on earth. And they've been there for 6 months. Like I said, I just don't know how you can keep coming up with Kerry, I know it's not what you're saying. I don't want to put it that way. But there are people out there that are still trying to explain this away. I don't care what the reason.
Who's trying to explain this away? Like, that's what I want to know.
It's just not working.
Who's trying to explain this away? That's what I want to I don't know anybody. It's indefensible. The defense is indefensible. Mike Stoops is indefensible. It's just, you can't defend it. There's nothing that you can throw out there where you can say, well, if you just look at it this way. No, there's no way to look at it. It's 6 games into a season. Your defense looked horrible. They gave up two 19-yard plays on 3rd and 20 plus. It's awful.
He's going to mention the personnel, but he's going to say that every week. We don't have the personnel to go up against Army. We don't have the personnel to go against Baylor.
It's being made out like Mike is making excuses. He's just answering the questions that he's asked. I mean, he said, this is my fault. It's my fault. I feel bad because this defense isn't what it should be. He's taking the blame for it. So when he's...
I agree with that part. I don't think he's not owned it. I think... But the reality is it's his to own. And
exactly.
At some point, it just is what it is.
But he's the only coach that will actually talk schemes with you and personnel and why they do this and why they do that. He's the only coach that will do that.
Well, they should do the opposite of what they're trying to do because it's not working. I mean, I think the guy is lost. He is absolutely lost.
No, I think there's something to that. I mean, but here's what this is the thing. Everybody wants to blame the coaches and blame the schemes because they don't want to face the facts. Oklahoma has terrible personnel on defense. This might be the worst defensive personnel roster-wise that they've ever had because they bring in guys like Caleb Kelly. They're on the shelf. Buki is making no significant impact at all as a 5-star. I mean, I have people... Players.
I think he's playing out of position.
He's playing out of position.
He's a 5'9", 160-pound safety. How do you expect him to
tackle? But they're all that. Every defensive back, and I told you guys that before the season. Yeah. I said that. I said, it concerns me that they have an entire secondary full of 5'10", 170 guys.
Safety.
What?
I said that they were at safety.
Little Jordan Humphrey, Colin Johnson, 15 catches, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. And those aren't just the only big receivers they're going to see in the next 6 games. They have no answer for it.
No. And it's every... I mean, the word is out, too. I mean, it's like they are not going to escape this. Every offensive coordinator... I mean, if I almost feel like if another team had Jeff Mead, they would turn him into a superstar against this defense.
Denzel Mims.
Maybe that's why Jeff Mead played so much. It's because in practice he killed those guys.
Hakeem Butler and Jeff Mead are not that different of players. They're not that different in skill set. Like Jeff Mead can make plays against the secondary.
By the way,
A.D. Miller would torch the secondary.
Yeah,
and that's who Riley always brings up when you say you don't have the big receivers for these guys to go against, and you wouldn't say A.D. Miller is a top tier tall receiver, but he probably would look like it against this group.
Maybe that's why they get so excited every damn offseason. A.D. Miller's killing people. No, A.D. Miller's just killing your secondary.
I just don't understand how they can be so bad. It's one thing to go out there and get your ass kicked, but they go out there every week, it seems like, and they fundamentally, they're one of the worst defenses have to be in the country just as far as tackling guys and they look so confused before every play.
Here's where
I don't understand how you can be so unprepared going into a game.
Here's where the rubber met the road for me in that game. It's 4th and 2. They send Ryan Jones out on the field, a Sam linebacker. A position that Mike Stoops coaches. And he runs out there as the clock is winding down, looks to the sideline with his hands out like, what am I supposed to do? And he does that for about 3 seconds, and in the time he's doing that, Texas snaps the ball and runs for a first down, and he didn't do anything but stand there and look at the sideline. That was the end-all, be-all of complete and utter chaos.
I just don't understand how you can be so unprepared. And it happens every week.
It's like they're so afraid of making mistakes. I think we've talked about that before.
Look,
they're not aggressive.
I think what happened in this game is they tried to get too cute. And I think that's part of Mike's problem is that, and it's not just Mike's problem. I mean, the entire staff signed up on that game plan. They came up with it. They said, you know what? We're going to do check with me's the entire first half. And so when they come out in this formation or this, we're going to tell the defense what defense to get into, and then we'll be able to handle anything that they do. In theory, I'm sure it looked great when they were drawing it up on the chalkboard, but it was a disaster on game day.
Same with the offense.
And every single one of those defensive coaches signed off on that. Probably Bob signed off on that. Lincoln had to sign off on that. It's every single it's Mike's fault because he's the defensive coordinator. It's his head on the platter. But let's not act like the ineptitude begins and ends with Mike Stoops. It's the entire staff.
Clean house, then. I mean, you obviously
don't you
can't
know
do it right
Bob
now.
Diaco is going to be the new interim DC?
I mean, he was terrible at Nebraska. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with him because I get it because it's not Mike. That's basically the answer. But
I told you this today, Eddie. This is the problem that Lincoln Riley faces, and I think
it's a theory. It's certainly a theory.
I think that Lincoln Riley has enjoyed the fact that he can have Mike Stoops as his defensive coordinator, which has a lineage to Bob Stoops. It's a lineage to Oklahoma football in the past, and the fact that they played defense. Because if you clean house of Mike Stoops and Bob Stoops is no longer a part of your program, what's going to happen when you put out a defense that gives up 48 points to Texas and you lose 48-45? You know what everybody's going to say? Well, Lincoln Riley's just turned us into Texas Tech.
I mean, I would like to think that Riley is smart enough to put people in place that wouldn't let that happen, but I mean, it's becoming indefensible of what they're continually running out there every week.
Watching Oklahoma be out physical yesterday, what does he think it looks like right now? Texas Tech's probably better defensively than Oklahoma. And that's crazy to say.
And you look at the
they don't have a Dakota Allen
statistically.
That's fact.
Statistically, they on paper it looks like they played decent. The quarterback hurry numbers.
By the way,
are up.
I wanted to save this to trigger Eddie during the podcast, but I already let the cat out of the bag. Pro Football Focus, 8 missed tackles.
Yeah, and what did I say? That means nothing to me. I saw what I saw. But like, for instance, the Caleb Kelly overrunning a sack. I don't understand how that happens. It almost looks like they've told the linebackers turn everything inside, don't make tackles, just turn everything back inside.
That's been a real issue for OU.
Which is
season.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If that's what they're telling them.
You remember Curtis Bolton after the Baylor game talked about the pressure, and
right.
we felt that was a pretty good
they're
quote.
Getting good pressure on him. They're just not making a tackle
ever. They're never ever finishing the job, and that's become one of the more dominant storylines to me of this first half of the season. Is all the sacks they should have had, but ended up not getting.
It blows my mind how close they get to a lot of pressure. I mean, a lot of times they get good pressure, they just don't tackle the guy.
Yep.
I mean, am I seeing something different, Josh?
No, I mean, You guys added up just the last 2 weeks. Oklahoma's missed what? Maybe 5? I mean, not just like, oh, he had a chance at him, he got a hand to him. They were freebies. They should have. I mean, there's no way in hell Sam Ehlinger should ever get away from Caleb Kelly. Not ever.
It blows my mind. And the thing about it is it's continual. It's every week. We're sitting here in the post-game podcast, or even going back to last year. I mean, they've been so lucky that they had an offense like they do. I mean, you could make the argument. You could be, I don't know. They could have gone 8-5, 9-4 last year without Baker Mayfield and an offense that was historic. I mean, they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter and almost.
Well, yeah, but this is Oklahoma, and they're going to have Baker Mayfields.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, Trevor Knight went 8-4.
Yeah, and it was
right. That's
embarrassing.
Right,
and everybody got fired.
Well,
which led to Lincoln Riley.
Interesting how that all works out, isn't it?
What are you saying?
Fire somebody and get somebody better.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, look, you can trace it back. I mean, everybody gets upset about.
They're not turning this thing around.
No, what I'm saying is, you trace it back. Yes, it should have been fixed after the Rose Bowl, but, and I had this discussion with people last night. Lincoln Riley, and I've said it before, was in a terrible situation. He doesn't get that job unless Bob hands it to him. And when he handed it to him, it had conditions with it, which is, I want my staff to remain intact. Because Bob said this. I asked him at his resigning press conference, resignation press conference, like, would you leave if this system had not been in place to where everyone could stay and Lincoln could take over? He said, no, I would have stayed around here and continued to coach to make sure that my guys still had jobs. So the only way that's the thing that people conveniently forget. Like, Lincoln Riley has been hamstrung. Well, hamstrung's a harsh word, but this is something that he agreed to in order to have this job.
What is the grace period, though?
I think it's over.
I mean, we get it for the 2017 season, but I don't think it meant anything going forward to this year. Do you?
No, it did, because Lincoln said, after everybody was like, why are you keeping Mike Stoops? He said, because we need better athletes on defense, and we're going to recruit better athletes. And look, I think if Mike Stoops had Alabama's players, he'd be a pretty good coach. Anybody would. Brent Venables is a hell of a lot better coach at Clemson with the players that he's got than he was at Oklahoma. The problem is you have to get those players, and they don't have them. And I don't think that they can get enough players in here in 1 or 2 years to be the defense that they want to be behind Mike Stoops.
Well, they got Ronnie Perkins, and they chose to use him for like 10 to 15 snaps for one tackle. They have Trey Brown, might be the best corner on the team. Don't really choose to use him either. Deshaun White, I'm not really doing much.
I'm somewhere in between. I think that the argument of the scheme, and obviously that falls on Mike Stoops and the coaching staff. I think that plays a portion of it. I'm not completely buying in that they just don't have any players down there. Like,
they don't trust them.
They don't.
Then why did OU get blown off the line of scrimmage by a very average offensive line the entire game?
It's a good question.
Because they don't trust the depth. They don't trust that they can cycle in. Yes, they don't trust.
I don't think they're playing the right players.
Boom.
So you think Q Overton over Gallimore and Fahamatu?
Maybe.
And Tyrese Lott.
Get creative.
Especially in that game where you're getting shoved around in the middle.
Get creative with Mann and Perkins in at the same time. Those are your difference makers. Make it happen.
But they're going to continue to do the same shit over and over.
It's your job.
I get what you're
ridiculous.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. My God. That's like 7 F-bombs.
I don't really care. It's just ridiculous. Every week. Every week.
Well, not the first two.
Yeah, and they played 2 of the worst teams in the country.
I know. I'm just pointing out inaccuracies to piss you off.
Alabama and Clemson have personnel that Oklahoma doesn't have. That's fine. We can accept that. Oklahoma has better personnel than anybody in the Big 12.
Than K-State. They have it better than K-State, who gave up 10 points to that team on offense last week.
Exactly. Oklahoma is currently like 96th in the country in defense. They're about half a yard in front of Kansas State per game. Bill Snyder would roll over in his, presumed grave to have OU's personnel. He'd love it. He'd kill for it. And he didn't have it. And so there's just no compare. Like, I get that. Again, you don't have to be Alabama to win with Oklahoma's offense. You need to be functional defensively. Like Texas A&M, again, they're 8 months into that experiment. They don't have a bunch of superstars on that defense. They've got some good players, but it's not like someone's last few years were the same as his first few years. He doesn't have a ton of great players, not a bunch of NFL first-rounders. But look at them. They're playing outstanding defense, and they've been there, like I said, for less than a year. It's not, don't get me wrong. There are personnel. You wish Oklahoma could be better in certain areas, and I get all that. Oklahoma's personnel is not so paltry that it's the excuse for every game where they have these just horrific performances.
Eddie, cuss. Do your thing. I gotta look something up.
It's embarrassing.
I will say, for all the Diaco lovers out there, in his last 4 years as DC, one is at Nebraska, which, obviously had some personnel issues, but also was in the Big Ten. And the other three were in Connecticut, which obviously not a lot of talent on either side of the ball there in that situation. He averaged about 50th in the country in total defense. So don't make Bob Diaco some patron saint of defensive ideology.
Josh, I think people would kill to have the 50th ranked defense in the country right now.
I don't think you're wrong. Now,
for now, but when they
at Nebraska.
when they had the 50th ranked defense, if there's 6 games in, you have the 50th ranked defense, people are going to lose their shit.
It's better than 96th or whatever the hell they are now. I mean, if you get into the red zone against OU, you're going to score a touchdown. That's basically what
86% of the time.
It's basically what it's come down to. It's flat out terrible.
5 of 5 for Texas. 5 touchdowns. Couldn't force one into a field goal.
There's not a stat you can find that's positive.
You know what's scary? Oklahoma has faced the 6th and 10th offenses in the Big 12. Obviously, they don't have to face themselves. That's good news. But Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Baylor, all ahead of Texas. All 8. Baylor is closest to Texas, and they're putting up almost 100 more yards per game. Oh, I forgot Baylor. Baylor is in there. So they face 5, 6, and 10.
By the way, Baylor's going to shred Oklahoma State's defense. That's
Oklahoma
a bad
State
defense.
Might be in real trouble.
That's a
might
bad
be in real
defense.
trouble.
We know bad defenses. That's a bad defense.
Cancel Bedlam.
We are not doing a player of the game this week or a play of the game. We'll do stock down only. But I want to tell you guys about the sponsor for this podcast, Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City, a company that does business better than Oklahoma plays defense. They've got the brand new 2019 Lexus ESs and ES hybrids in stock. They just started arriving a few weeks ago. It's the brand new redesigned vehicle. They're really cool. Like, if you're like me and you drove an IS and you like the kind of aggressive styling that they have, and you maybe were in an ES and you said, it's kind of a old lady's car in the past. Well, that aggressive styling is now in the ES. So for all you younger people that would like a bigger sedan with some aggressive styling, great sound system, Apple CarPlay, all that stuff. 44 miles to the gallon for the ES Hybrid. We drove it to Wichita to go see Marcus Hicks. It's a fantastic car, fantastic fuel economy. So give the folks at Eskridge Lexus a call. The LSs, they still got some 2018s left there that they're trying to move. You get some really good deals. Tell them you want the Sooner Scoop deal, and they will take care of you. But call our good friend Ed Eskridge at Eskridge Lexus, Oklahoma City, 405-755-9000, or go check them out on eskridgelexus.com. And but yeah, a lot of the new 2019 models rolling in there. And we're going to be taking another car down to TCU if OU still has a football program when that game happens in a couple of weeks.
We should find that kickoff time tomorrow, you would imagine.
11 a.m. probably. That's my guess. So, offensively, let's talk about that. Let's talk about something besides Mike Stoops for just a second. We'll get back to it.
Sure, I'm mad too that Kennedy Brooks doesn't play.
Good God.
Let's go.
Here's the biggest gripe that I have, and I think all fans would have is, okay, well, your coaches don't always seem to do the right things or put players in the right positions or call the right plays or coach them up during the week correctly. But you're telling me when a guy runs twice for, 29 yards or something?
He had 3 carries for 34 yards and then 1 missed assignment and never saw the field again.
But after his first 2 carries, he has 1 blown assignment on an option. And it's like, oh, we've got to take him out. We can't play him. To me, that's some of the biggest bull. Like, I'll just say it. I thought they mismanaged Abdul Adams. He transferred out over 1 fumble. Are you going to do the same thing to Kennedy Brooks and make him dissatisfied? And I mean, good God, let kids make some mistakes when they have that much talent.
TJ Pledger didn't have a snap.
No. So, Jay Boulware, you're on notice.
I don't know about Jay, but just interesting that they went with Sermon, and he was able to get that long catch to set up the game-tying touchdown, which he did put in from 7 yards out, but he's just not the guy to start a game. He is still doing well as that change of pace guy, as that bruising closer. He is not starting at all. He has the same holes as Brooks, but he's too busy dancing and being patient. He's not getting there.
It's hard to rip on Marcellus Sutton because he did a lot of good things yesterday. They were playing 6 men in the box, and I thought it took OU too long to kind of take advantage of that. And that was that game where the offensive line finally got to be the offensive line. They got to run the ball down somebody's throat. The problem was Marcellus Sutton was in the backfield and he was getting yardage, but if you had a really good running back like a Kennedy Brooks, maybe he would have broke some of those. What did Sutton end up on the day? What were his totals?
8 carries for 42 yards. So that's a 5.2 average.
And he was their running game. I think you had the big plays by Sermon late, but for the most part, when they were in the thick of it, Marcellus Sutton was the only guy that was really running the ball effectively for you.
It makes no sense to me why he doesn't get more carries, first off. I mean, it almost feels ridiculous that we're talking about the offense because they were so good. But Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but there's no question. First quarter through third quarter, give the ball to Brooks, get Sermon in there. Nobody else touches the ball in the fourth quarter except for Trey Sermon. I mean, when they start getting it rolling,
yeah.
I mean, look at those last 2 drives. They did.
But you know what? If they were running the ball when they were in a 6-man front, maybe they would have run them down earlier.
Yeah.
Or wore them down earlier.
I mean, offensively, the fourth quarter was exceptional. I mean, I can even understand that the pick, shit happens. It wasn't a good throw. He puts a little bit more air under it. I think he probably has the guy. The fumble, though, I mean, to go from the high of forcing your first punt of the game,
a chance to tie,
and getting the ball back with a chance to tie, to fumbling it on the first play, and just such an unneeded play at that. That was certainly a turning point in the game, and I think that obviously you get down by 3 touchdowns, you dig yourself a big hole, and it takes an incredible comeback to get back in it, and a comeback that I thought Texas played a little bit of part in that in the fourth quarter.
Yes,
just as far
they did.
As play calling, I mean, it was kind of atrocious. They went conservative, and it almost bit them in the ass. But I don't know. It was weird. I couldn't complain though about the offense. I thought that they did everything they pretty much had to.
They've got a lot of good pieces, and I just think it's about finding how to make them all work. We've seen Riley do that time and time again after the Texas loss 3 years ago, after the Buckeyes loss, figure things out. You hate that always comes after a loss, but we'll see if there's any new wrinkles heading into the second half of the season.
Isn't it funny how that works out, that all these changes and stuff that always happens, it takes a loss for it to finally happen. Like a close game with a service academy wasn't enough to push the button, but an ass whooping to your rival was.
You needed
that
Josiah St. John.
You
needed Josiah St. John to tip off runs and pass before you could bench him. It's like just something catastrophic has to happen. They just so set on the 11 guys that they have.
They had to get down by 14 before they put Kennedy Brooks back in the game. That's another example of a staff that is reactionary instead of, I don't know, what's the other word? What's the opposite
The
of
opposite of reactionary?
Proactive.
I went to public
Proactive.
school.
Thank you.
I went to public
Bob.
school.
Bob's been in a corporate environment.
Isn't that concerning?
Why do you
little
always
bit?
hang around with private school people then?
Huh?
Why do you always hang around with private school people then?
You do have a private school feel, Eddie.
Well,
Were you with
I probably
private
would've
school
gone to
people this
private.
weekend
no. Well, maybe. I'm not sure.
on Saturday night?
Yeah, I don't know.
You do have kind of a private school. I don't know if it was your Fiji life that turned you or what.
I don't know.
I like when we can embarrass Eddie.
I'm not embarrassed.
You're blushing.
I don't
over
hang
there.
out with poor people.
See, there it is.
But Eddie's right. This has gone on forever. This goes back to Bob. This goes back to different coordinators.
And by the way, what happened to the
you
special
definitely-
teams? Where did our special teams go that were blocking punts against Florida? Like, where was the big reveal?
You gotta have the punter out there to block one when your defense can't force a fourth down.
I'd ready for them to block the
I guess they
last
did-
second field goal.
They did try and lay down. I was coming down from the press
don't
box when that
understand-
happened. They tried to have
Marquise
They tried to do the
Brown.
TCU
Yes.
thing.
Why did that not? Why did he have to come off the field? I'd never.
They said
understood
that you have to lay down. You can't lay down that early or something.
I actually missed the explanation.
We were
They never-
coming down
they
together.
They never gave an explanation. I mean, they just called not a timeout, but
They called the
referee
penalty and said, "Get off the field."
yeah, basically. I don't know. That I mean, game was over by then.
That wasn't going to work anyway.
No, it wasn't. I know what I was going to say. It's just surprising that as a staff they were so reactionary for a group that is so forward thinking when it comes to recruiting and things like that.
Bingo. Yep.
Isn't that? I mean, I don't know. That just it surprises me a little bit that they are so reactionary for a group that they can put out together a video and send it out on Twitter immediately.
Are we getting into the Lincoln cares more about
I'm not
social media than coaching?
I'm not saying that, but
No.
Because it sounds
no,
like
no.
you're heading in that direction.
No.
no, I'm not saying that, but it just
It's got to be
it is
said
a
if he
little
doesn't
surprising.
if he doesn't make some changes on defense pretty soon.
Well,
That's the next hot take coming on message boards near you. at
if nothing
SoonerScoop.com.
happens over the next few days that Riley's lost the
Well,
program,
when they start attacking Riley, it's going to be about recruiting and social media.
what's gonna happen?
Hey, Josh, since they made that epic comeback there in the fourth quarter, you think recruiting takes no hit whatsoever because those kids will remember one heck of a game?
I think it definitely helped. I think it definitely, soothed some of the burn. I mean, Oklahoma fell to 10 in the rankings today. Like, I don't think it's just
That was the most surprising thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, people are forgetting Oklahoma was dominated for 50 minutes of that game. They played really well in the last 10. And like you guys said, you can even say Texas kind of sat on the football, and it opened the door for Oklahoma.
Their butts
So-
puckered, too, at one point in that game.
Oh, there's no question.
I would have loved to have seen what would have
happen.
happened on 3rd and 11 if you don't get a pass interference on Norwood.
Which I don't... Josh, you tell me you're watching on TV. Was that a pass interference?
It looked
I
like
thought
it
it
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought his left hand was up in his shoulders. I get that people are like, oh, you can't make that call. I'm one of those people. If it's a PI, it's a PI. Like, I don't care when it happens. That doesn't matter.
I've seen it not called though. I think that's probably fair to say.
No, you're right. I mean, it
Does that get called in the NFL?
Oh, Goodell would probably have the guy arrested if he did that in the NFL.
If he called it?
No,
Or if
if he tried to make contact with another player like that.
That's the Stooley in you right there.
What? I mean, did you see some of the shit that they were calling today?
I don't know. I watched that Browns game. You want to talk about a defense that can tackle and what tackling is supposed to look like? Watch the goddamn Browns.
Greg Williams ain't putting people out there that can't tackle.
No.
Guys, something we talked a lot about all the old OU Texas games that were running. I was watching that 07 game. I kind of got caught up while I was actually doing under the hood of this current Texas team.
No, those MFers hit
watched
back
it.
then.
Oh my God! Like, Brian Jackson was not a special player, but Brian Jackson would make a tackle in space. Like it was just on both sides of the ball, Oklahoma and Texas.
They were killing each other.
That was just good football. And now you see it, and you're like, God, even Trey Brown, our team, Trey Brown here. Trey Brown missed a tackle yesterday, but that's the thing. Like it's become such a storyline that, you know what? Sometimes guys miss tackles. That's not the end of the world. You don't make a mountain out of that. But
we all know
over and over again.
We all know that the contact rules have changed. We all know that OU doesn't tackle to the ground in Texas. They in practice they thud. At some point, and the players told us last week, Bob, they were like, "This has been more intense than any practices that we've had. Like, it's been more physical." Didn't see that on Saturday. Maybe you need to get more intense than just 1 week before a game.
And they stress going good on good maybe more than other teams. I don't know what that's leading to. It's not producing anything more from the defense when it comes to that. But that's something they've been preaching time and time again.
By the way, we are not giving away a play of the game today or a player of the game. But normally on our post-game show, we would give away the Coop Ale Works play of the game. I don't even want to think about what it would be.
The play of the game?
No, don't. We're not doing it.
Kyler's run.
No, shut up.
The Kyler's run was pretty badass.
Come on.
And the 3rd and 4
You
Marquise
sellout
Brown
bastards.
touchdown wasn't bad because that was at a critical
shut
point.
Up now.
The game is over. The stats are in. Now it's time to grab a Coop Ale Works beer and raise a glass to our play of the game.
Now Eskridge is going to be jealous. Thanks. I'm going to deal with that shit. All right, so Kyler, there you go. Play of the game. It's over. Segment over. Coop Ale Works.
Congratulations.
Coop Ale Works, they've been around for 9 years in Oklahoma City. They've got 7 year-round beers and 4 seasonals like the Oktoberfest. Go get you. Stock up on that Oktoberfest before it's gone. It's good stuff. Make sure to stock up your tailgate with some of Coop's F5 IPA, which Eddie is a big fan of. I'm a big fan of the Horny Toad Blonde. Make sure you get some of that before your next tailgate. I don't know. Maybe you don't. Do people tailgate at high school games? That can be kind of creepy.
Yeah, I think they do. They do.
There is a serious tailgate at South Lake Carroll. They really do it.
Yeah,
now,
I can see that.
All the men I saw were drinking out of Yetis and stuff, so I couldn't verify what was actually happening.
Oh, it was whiskey or bourbon.
Yeah, they're not drinking
on
water.
On a high school campus, yeah, you got to be pretty careful.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
yeah, I bet they don't care. I respect that.
Nobody's taking a leg bag into a high school game, though.
Probably could.
Well, I bet like in southeast Oklahoma they are.
I've drank at a high school game before.
In high school?
Yeah, I was in high school, but yeah.
Well,
it was a McGinnis game.
True world-class degenerate, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Stole beer.
Proud of it.
You Catholics.
Pushed over mailboxes.
You don't push them over. You knock them over.
You can. You can push them over. They aren't made very well.
Especially up there near War Acres.
I do not live in War Acres. No offense to anybody that does.
So you went. You did it in your own neighborhood.
Not my own neighborhood. Surrounding neighborhoods.
You couldn't just do Halloween like most kids.
It's called vandalism.
Like you have. Yeah, you were a part of it.
It was fun.
You couldn't just do like a once a year deal.
Doing bad things with my friends.
Like throwing biscuit dough or eggs at cars.
No. We would never do that. Because you throw eggs at a car, it can scratch the paint. I would never do that. I would never put somebody in that kind of position. But we did one time.
Here we go.
Throw a pumpkin through the back of a windshield. And I felt bad about that for a while.
I don't think a pumpkin could actually. I think you're lying. I don't think a pumpkin could actually go through a window.
Going 70 down a street, and then you throw it through the back of the window. There was some
shattering. I bet it didn't go through, though.
No,
it'd take like a bowling ball to really go through.
It went completely through.
Depends how big the pumpkin is, too.
Also depends on the car.
Yeah, there we go.
You had to steal the pumpkin, though,
shattered
too.
like a bastard.
This is getting to the point of the year
By the way, I'm
for high school
told-
students that it's a good vandalism time of the year. Just throw that out there. Halloween's coming up.
We went to
Christmas golfing. You ever done that?
We went to eat Saturday night. The Grand Lux, I think that's what it's called. It's like a scaled up cheesecake factory.
How big was their menu?
Oh, it was massive.
I hate
it was
that.
at least 20 pages.
I hate menus like that.
But I'm telling you, we got the beignets. You had to pre-order them. Oh my god!
Like before you got there?
Well, as you were ordering your entree.
Oh.
Some people, it was
Why?
either the lava cake or the beignets, or there was like 6 different things you had to pre-order.
Jeez.
Which is genius because that makes you want to get dessert before you eat your food. But it was homecoming season in Dallas because there were at least 20 homecoming parties in that restaurant Saturday night. And we made sure we photobombed almost every one of them. Because we'd had some whiskey. Did you have a good time in Dallas? I had a great time in Dallas, other than,
Yeah, I always do.
knowing what was waiting for us when we came home.
I always do. It's good times.
No murders where you were in Deep Ellum?
I don't think so. That entire area is just completely built up these days.
I haven't been over there in a long time. I need to go. I guess I have been. What was that rodeo burger place?
Oh, yeah. I went to a restaurant right across the street from there last night. It was very good.
Mexican place?
Yeah.
And it was good?
That was really good.
Had a little Mi Cocina on Friday night.
I went to Mayo Mayo on Friday night. I was thinking about this on the way back. When I go to Dallas, I always kind of treat it like a Mexican holiday. It's like I end up going to a Mexican restaurant down there.
Well, it's good
I end up
because,
drinking
like,
Dos Equis.
The thing about
or
it is,
Corona.
it's like when you live in Oklahoma,
It's really strange.
you either eat at Ted's or some derivative of Ted's. Like all Mexican food in Oklahoma City is just like going to Ted's.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit more flavorful. I mean, Chewy's is a little different. But for the most part, like in Norman, everything is just like Ted's. Like Tara Humara's is like going to Ted's. Pepe Delgado's is like going to Ted's.
Tarahumara is really good.
I like it. I mean, I'm not complaining. I get it all the time. I'm just saying, when you go to Dallas, it's a different breed of
It's better.
Mexican food.
For sure.
And Bob had brunch this morning, like the effete man that he is.
Yeah, it'd be, getting old. With my college buddies and
Where was the
their
place that you
parents.
went?
We actually went to Champs, which
The
is
sporting goods store?
It's more of a sports bar,
Yeah,
but they offer
been there.
They offer brunch too on Sundays.
Went and hung out at
I
Black
would have had
Friar
like
on
13
Saturday.
mimosas this morning. Actually, I wouldn't have been drinking this morning.
Yeah, you were
I was
half dead.
very hungover. In fact, I
left
stopped
when
at
you were still
In-N-Out.
in bed this morning.
We were in separate
I stopped
beds,
at the
we were
In-N-Out.
separate
I
beds, by the
stopped
way.
at In-N-Out, the one right by our hotel.
Yeah.
That was good.
I took one bite.
And that was it?
I was like, oh,
It was very salty,
can't
very
do this.
good.
I can't do this. I
So
ended
you
up-
came home with one and you threw it away? Did you leave it
No,
in
I
your car?
I ended up eating it, but it was
At what
it was
mile
cold.
marker did
It
you
was
start
cold.
eating it again?
Like past Denton. I mean, it was a while.
Like Ardmore?
I was like, I need to eat something, or I think I am dying.
I
Then I had a torrential downpour at the border that literally couldn't see
I missed
anything.
that. I got out before you did.
I missed our friends on 35 too. I never saw them. The meth heads that are always waving.
Yeah, because Texas
I never
won. They
saw
should have
them.
been there. They weren't out. Yeah.
Where's that at?
It's usually in Sayre, like right when
Sanger?
you're- It's Sanger, yeah.
Maybe they were there and
I didn't see
missed them,
them.
but I don't know.
The weather was pretty bad, so maybe that chased them away.
I was able to avoid everything. It took an hour and a half longer because of all the accidents, especially in Gainesville. Gainesville was backed up for miles.
Friday was probably the worst traffic I've ever been in for Texas. It seems like I say that every year, but it was.
But
really
you didn't
bad.
go till late, right?
I mean, I left at 11.
Yeah, that's rough. Gotta go earlier.
I was producing content. Couldn't.
I went to In-N-Out twice. I went on Wednesday when we were driving to fly to Chicago, and then when we came back Friday night, went right back In-N-Out.
Oh, I could go for it right now.
Yeah, I made the mistake of not loading up on Boston Market on the way home. So anyway, I think we all had good trips.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's always a good trip, and I'd be
And that's
lying
the thing
to
about
you.
OU Texas. Like, you can lose, and it sucks, and you get up the next morning, and you hate it, and you see someone in a Texas shirt, and you hate them. But by the time you get back, at least you've done some cool stuff. You've been to some places that you can't go
back on home
here.
base, red soil.
Like, it's always a good weekend, win or lose.
Percentage chances those two teams play December 1st.
Great question.
I'm going to put it 68%.
Josh or Bob?
Go ahead, Josh.
I think Kerry's about right. I'd say 60 to 70%. I think everybody's like, oh, everybody's going to score in Oklahoma. This defense is no worse than it was last year, and the offense is very similar. Like, there's no reason to think Oklahoma can't get right back to where they were.
Are we really going that this defense can get better?
I don't think what I saw on Saturday, I don't think this team can win in Morgantown. I don't know if they can. I think that they can win in Fort Worth.
Yeah, you're bringing me back down to earth all of a sudden.
Shit, that game in Lubbock all of a sudden seems like you better score 60 to win.
They have to create turnovers. They don't know how to do it.
They can't create turnovers.
No clue how to force turnovers.
At some point, the ball just has to roll your way. I mean, doesn't it?
They haven't forced
it kind of sounds cliche, but
well, they can't even tackle a guy, much less target the
they
football.
They haven't forced the fumble this season. They got that muff punt against Baylor. That's it.
That's the only fumble they've had.
That's it.
Jesus Christ.
Now, what's the chances of a three-way tie, West Virginia, Texas, OU?
What would that go down to?
I don't think Texas. I think it's more likely that OU and West Virginia rematch than OU Texas. So I've got to change my.
You don't think Texas is winning out?
Their offense isn't that good.
They're going to run into somebody on the
45.
wrong night.
Yeah, I mean 48.
48, yeah.
Most ever.
But their offense sucks.
Most ever.
God. I mean, there's what, Josh? Did you say they had the best game that they ever had, that they'll probably ever have all year, and they moved up 16 spots to 70th?
They're 64th in the country.
64th, thank you very much.
What's OU total offense? I guess Josh isn't that good.
He's going to look it up right now.
He would have.
What's Oklahoma in total offense?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Is that what we had? Okay,
yes, sir.
I think, let me see. I had it up just a second ago. Let me pull it back up. Oklahoma is currently 11th in the country in total offense.
That probably
Texas
pisses
Tech
Lincoln
is number
off, too.
1.
You think it pisses them off more that their offense is 12th in total offense, or the fact that his defense can't stop anybody?
Well, it is. OU is Texas Tech. Probably the offense.
Texas Tech is 1 and West Virginia is 10. Oklahoma still has on their remaining schedule and goes to both.
All right, let's rip the shit out of some people.
Whose stock is up and whose stock is down? It's time for the AMC Mortgage Stock Report. If you're on the move, check in with AMC Mortgage for all your home loan needs.
All right, it is time for the stock report brought to you by AMC Mortgage. Our good friend Kyle McCord, who is with AMC Mortgage, NMLS number 1256166, an equal housing opportunity lender. I want to remind you guys, Kyle, he is a personal friend of mine, but he's also done loans for a lot of my on-air colleagues. He and his team have been originating loans from Oklahoma together for over 16 years. In addition to standard, conventional, FHA, VA, and jumbo financing, Kyle and his team also specialize in first-time home buyers and loans requiring down payment assistance. So give them a call, 405-623-3802. That's 405-623-3802. That's Kyle McCord with AMC Mortgage. If you're looking for someone to help you out with some of your mortgage needs, AMC Mortgage and Kyle McCord is the place to go. All right. Stock up, it's not possible, is it? Other than maybe because it was against a real team, Kennedy Brooks.
I love Brown and Lamb. They just keep showing that they don't have to alternate. These are two guys that can dominate every single game, and you wonder if they're just going to put up numbers like that for the rest of the way. They just complement each other so well, and you see it again. They combine for 15 catches, more than 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think that's going to be the norm the rest of the way.
You know what, Bob? F*** you and your positivity. Stock down.
Sure.
Let's go with it. Eddie, I'll let you go first.
This is a tough
The
one.
defensive line. How about that?
Stock down?
Yeah, the entirety of it.
Yeah, I could.
Blown off the line of scrimmage all day long by a average offensive line.
For me, I would single out Amani Bledsoe. He's a guy that should dominate in a game like that, where they're being physical up front.
He's not any good.
Texas is not big at offensive tackle. It should have been a physical matchup he could live with, and he didn't do anything. He was shoved around all day. He
was by Army too.
Yeah. I mean,
I just don't understand how that happens. Is he?
He's not
Is he
on
just
the
soft?
He's not on the juice anymore.
It doesn't make sense to me how they have guys down there that just get their ass whooped by players that aren't very good.
Benny Wiley, bad for Oklahoma football. Mike call him.
Just, I don't know. It's really fucked
I will tell you
up.
this: there are people. I'll throw it out there. Stock down, Benny Wiley. This was not a physical football team. At one point in that game, you could say in the first half, they got dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they were getting their ass whooped.
They were getting whooped by the Texas defensive line. They were getting whooped by the Texas offensive line.
That happens.
So I'm sorry, Benny Wiley, stock down.
Seems
for
like
me.
that happens every year though, down there.
Yeah, they do get out physical by Texas.
Texas gets out. They come in there with a
And push
fighter
them around.
mentality and push them around
Yeah.
every year, and they've gotten away with it the last couple years. Got bit this year.
They've embarrassed you. How about that?
Yeah.
That was something that Texas fans talked about in their time, and even Texas media. In the year he was there was a lot of conversation that they just looked softer that year. Now, I don't know. That doesn't make it so. I'm just saying that is a thread that I've heard before about Wiley.
What's crazy is, Josh, you talked about watching that 2007 game. Like, even that, when they were re-showing the 01 game and the 02 game, like, Texas always had that, it was that national narrative, oh, Texas is soft under Mac Brown. But, like, you watch those games back, and those guys are knocking the shit out of each other. I mean, you remember that Babineau, the linebacker that Texas had? That dude was a hoss.
Yeah.
And he was like 5'9", and he would hit anything in sight.
Derek Williams, Hoss, or Derek Johnson, Hoss.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You don't
Earl
see
Thomas,
those-
Hoss.
There's no first-rounders on either one of Chris Boyd, probably, for Texas at corner. Other than that, I can't name one guy on that defense that I think is elite. They've got some young guys. B.J. Foster could be special.
Brandon
but
Jones.
Brandon Jones is a decent player. He's a solid player. It's not Brecken Hager. That's not him.
God, I never even noticed him in that game. Did he play?
I've watched 2 or 3 of their games full out. I never notice him. I don't know what all the buzz is, other than he's got long hair.
Not a bad quote.
I will go stock down as much as I've enjoyed watching him throughout the years. Justin Broyles.
Oh, I agree.
He will
He needs
talk
to stop
a mile
talking
a
so
minute,
much and tackle some people.
but he got abused.
He got in that touchdown over the middle in the end zone was embarrassing.
That was bad.
And he was the guy starting the fights
He
in
was
the pregame.
starting the pregame stuff. You do that, you better bring it.
Yeah, you
better
can't back
be able
up
to back
his
it
mouth.
up. Well, that's the thing is they have a bunch of guys down there that can talk, and they're pretty good at it. But when it comes to making plays and actually making a difference,
They
on
haven't
the field,
earned anything.
Yeah,
Buki hasn't earned a
that's
damn
the best way
thing.
to put it.
Justin Broyles hasn't earned the right to be able to talk shit.
It's a good way to put it. And
Parnell Motley is the one guy that's actually played in that secondary that's done some things, and everybody hates him because they think he sucks. But he's got more skins on the wall than all those guys put together.
I just don't know why they never. And again, I'm not.
By the way,
smart
Trey
enough.
Norwood did not look good in that game. He had some awful plays. Just want to point that out.
I don't think it was that bad. I think you're reaching.
I'll go find some tape for you.
Good.
I think
Do
sides
it.
have been picked on that battle. Can I go with another stock down?
Yeah,
Of course.
Grant Calcaterra.
Well, I think he's hurt.
Is he ever going to
His
be
shoulder
like,
deal, yeah. I mean, his shoulder's been messed up since that touchdown catch.
For a guy that's supposed to have elite hands, though, he puts the ball on the ground a lot.
Right. It's not about the
Before or after
injury. It's about, wait a minute, the opening. We remember him catching everything in sight, having that reputation, and then getting to campus. You can excuse the drop against the Buckeyes. That probably would have been a touchdown. But this year was supposed to be his sort of breakout year, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
He played one series, though, on Saturday. He
dropped
hurt.
the touchdown pass that he got open for.
When?
Yeah, he did.
Series.
He didn't catch. That's how he got hurt. He didn't catch it.
And I don't understand how that was incomplete. I had pretty good video of it, and
Really?
I mean, the ball never came out.
Well, Josh was on the one on Twitter saying it looked like it was incomplete.
Yeah, Josh, you were one of the first.
When he came down to the ground, the ball clearly moved. He didn't have control of it. They had one really good angle of it, kind of from like the Texas sideline, like you could almost say like where Tom Herman's standing.
Mm-hmm.
They had a good shot of it, and I didn't think there was any question it was a drop. I mean, he had it, and he did, and he kind of was pressing it to his body. But you could see as soon as the ball hit the ground, it moved, and you're like, okay, he just didn't have it. So, and his hand wasn't under it when it did.
Josh,
Grant, you've been put on blast by Bob Persbillo. Your stock is down.
That's by Josh.
Just want to tell you, Grant, just a little wisdom for you. Or was it Josh? Okay.
It was me, definitely me.
Josh McQuistion has put you on blast. Stock down. My advice to you: women weaken legs, even though I know you have a shoulder problem. Just remember that. Okay, feel free. Continue.
Josh, I got one more TV question for you, because I was actually going down elevator and stuff like that when this was happening. Did OU's defense look different when Robert Barnes was in the fourth quarter instead of Houghton?
I kind of thought they did, and he was a guy that I almost mentioned earlier as guy that, just a little, not a lot. I don't want to overreact because I kind of want to watch the idiot because but he made a few plays. He made a couple tackles in space. Like I don't know, if his positioning was all that good because when you're watching on TV, you're seeing what happens, but it's kind of the end result. I don't really get to rewind and look at it and that kind of stuff. So, but I did. I thought I kept seeing him. I guess would be the way I would say it. With Houghton, you're like, were there 10 men on the field? I don't even know if I saw 8 that whole series. And with Barnes, you're like, okay, he's around the ball. There's good things happening. And, Bob, I thought you were going to ask me if on that last drive it looked different defensively, period. And it did. All of a sudden, all that aggression that Oklahoma had been putting for 3 straight stops stopped. And then you just saw them fall off. And you're like, okay. And you could see it coming. But that's another argument. We won't get down that road again. But I thought that's where that question was going.
All right, we're about out of time. I want to circle back to Mike Stoops. As we talked about before, there's going to be a lot of rumors circulating out there. There already are. Nothing is confirmed by me.
The big meeting?
There was a rumor about some big meeting with Gallagly. Oddly enough, Gallagly, Lincoln Riley, Mike Stoops, and Bob Stoops, but no Joe Castiglione.
I guess the athletic director doesn't have a say in that.
Yeah. I think that meeting with the athletic director would happen before the meeting with the president. Generally how that works. Look, everyone wants this to be true, and I understand why. People want to get rid of Mike Stoops.
If it's going to happen, though, it has to happen in the next 48 hours. Like, you can't let it linger into the week.
Agreed.
If what has to happen?
If they're going to let Mike go, or if something's going to happen with Mike, it would have to happen in the next 24 hours.
I'm telling you this, judging by some of the texts I've been getting while we've been doing this podcast, because Lincoln Riley's coach's show is now 30 minutes in, which he recorded this morning. It's sunshine and rainbows, fellas.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This is, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen this week, and it's going to piss everybody off. This is what's going to, judging by what I'm hearing about the coach's show.
On a scale of 1 to triggered, how triggered am I getting ready to be?
Very triggered.
Oh, no.
The narrative from the coaching staff is going to be, we believe that we can make progress on defense. We're going to get better, just like we came back at the end of that game and
Oh, Jesus.
Give this time.
The defense gave this team a chance in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they stepped up and made some plays when they had to. And
they just didn't have a sense of urgency, Josh.
A big part of
Texas
this.
gave you that chance.
Oh, Josh.
Like
Nice.
God, that's madness. That's just insane. That's insane.
I'm just trying to prepare you guys because I mean the rest of America needs to know this. We're not sitting here saying that's the way it should be. I think we've all given up. Bob is nodding his head yes. We know Eddie has given up. I don't think that this can be fixed. I think it's a mistake to try and continue to force this down the fans' throats because there's no coming back from where they are. There just isn't. There's no coming back. This is not fixable. It's not fixable. And I would be happy to eat my own words on this, but to me, it is not fixable. You can't fix this. I can't say that enough. But yes, look, Lincoln Riley got mad at the media a couple weeks ago because he felt like we were being negative about the defense. Well, get ready.
About Army.
After the Army game, right.
Mm-hmm.
But get ready. I mean, we may be getting into a media versus coaching staff war here soon. I don't know.
Well, it won't start this week because, and this was planned before, but
Yes.
Well, we'll talk to Lincoln on Monday, or on Tuesday, I mean.
Oh, we are going to?
Yes, after practice.
Has that been confirmed?
That's what Hauk told us, yeah.
Okay.
Mike Hauk this morning.
But
Because he didn't confirm
Monday
that
press
yesterday.
conference.
Yesterday he told us.
He said maybe. He doesn't know because Hauk is leaving Tuesday.
That's right, yeah.
And Wednesday for a mock playoff thing.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know.
They don't need to send it. They don't. OU doesn't need to send a representative of that. They're not going to be playing in it.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, there's no way that if I don't think there's any way a one-loss Big 12 team makes the playoff this
Right.
year.
They're just not going to have that non-conference win that's going to boost them. Maybe if OU could beat a one-loss Texas team in the Big 12 championship, that's it.
After being an
They need to beat
undefeated
a
West
one-loss
Virginia.
Texas team, and they need to beat an undefeated West Virginia.
Bingo.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need a lot of help. But
Help.
shit, guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
you're
even know
right.
why we're talking about this when I honestly don't know if they'll go
Because
down
they're
to Fort
10th
Worth
in
and
the
win.
country, Eddie. They only fell to 10 and 11.
Polls are stupid.
Well, the only poll that
Because
matters
we're-
isn't even out yet.
We're so focused on the defense, we're forgetting how good this offense is. Like it amazes
It's
me that
historically
Texas did
good.
what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even when it goes bad, Kyler Murray can make your offense look right.
By the way, we didn't even mention that Kyler Murray basically admitted this is his only year in the post-game press conference.
I mean, yeah, but
We knew that,
Yeah,
but
he's just
it was
never
just
really
the whole
said
fact
it.
that Riley wouldn't acquiesce and admit that too.
He kind of. I thought that answer was just really. That was a strange press conference to
was.
begin with. Just with him nearly coming to tears, and then
Riley was short
taking-
a couple of times with reporters.
Riley was short. Murray kept pausing. There were like 2 15-second pauses.
and he wouldn't go near the microphone.
Yeah, he was hard to pick up. I appreciate you sending me the audio.
whatever.
But look, I don't think this defense is fixable. Not with the current administration, if you want to use that phrase.
Unless you're just ready to do something new. That's why I mentioned
and that's the thing.
Man and
when
Perkins.
I was talking about Lincoln Riley being defensive a couple weeks ago, like it gives me the impression that he's going to try and ride this out because, and I don't think it's anything other than he's been convinced that it will hurt recruiting if Mike Stoops gets fired in the middle of the season, and he cares a great deal about perception of the program, the momentum of the program, and recruiting. I mean, he just does, that's who he is. That's the biggest thing about Lincoln from Bob is that he puts recruiting at a very, very high priority, more so than anything else other than wins.
But how badly does it divide the fan base on social media who are trying to tweet to these recruits?
It's terrible.
When this is
And the
happening?
other thing is the guys that are tweeting at recruits are the most radical fans.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that are going to be also. So if these recruits follow these guys,
right,
they're going to be shitting all
yes.
over OU and Mike Stoops and the defense. It's like that's the devil that brought you. Is now you have all these people. I mean, you see it like the fan website. Like I saw their people, the Brainiac guys. I'll just say the name. How about that? Like, their people are going off on Mike Stoops, yet they're kissing recruits' asses all the time, making videos and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, when you start getting mixed up with all these random, fan sites and organizations and people that aren't professional journalists and all this stuff, it becomes this cauldron of just shit. And that's what it is right now. And if you don't get rid of Mike Stoops, you're just inviting all these people and their negativity because they're super fans to be cast upon your recruiting base.
Please be the social media teaser. Cauldron of shit.
I can do that. I can see Eddie's just stewing over there. He wants to say something horrible about...
No, I just...
There's nothing left to say. I mean...
It can't continue this way.
They're not going to make any changes in terms of how they want to, just...
If they're not, then so be it. Lincoln Riley, the reign of cauldron of shit is coming upon you.
I refuse.
It's going to be like when William Wallace tried to storm the castle and they poured that tar on top of him. That's the fan sites for you. That's social media. Be raining down hot tar on your recruiting classes. It's not going to matter if you have every conceivable offensive recruit, though. I mean, they don't care.
Hey, Josh, are you still here?
No, he left.
Okay.
He's good to go.
I am wondering how much Mike Stoops does mean to recruiting at this point. Or is it perception compared to what's actually going down? That I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like he does a good job.
Well, here's a good example. Like Kelvin Hicks, like he is completely bought into Lincoln Riley. Like he loves Lincoln Riley. I don't think it matters with Marcus Hicks if Mike Stoops is here or not. He's going to be at OU.
Because like Mike's done a great job at St. Thomas Aquinas. He's got Nick Benito on campus.
Yeah.
Jaden Davis is committed.
Yeah.
Like,
and he spearheaded
that's where
that one.
I've been wrestling and I've been...
And that's the thing, like, Mike is so under the radar, he doesn't do the social media, like, you don't know how involved he is. He's more involved than you think, and I've told him before, like, that hurts him. Like,
right.
People don't realize how involved he is in recruiting and how much he is a part of recruiting, and that's why Lincoln is so sensitive about this stuff, about his defense, because I think Lincoln knows deep down, if you lose Mike, you lose some recruits, or at least you have to work really hard to keep them.
I mean, right now, I think it's probably worth it.
I don't disagree.
Is the performance on the field going to be what loses them now? I don't know.
I mean, look, they I said it before, they are a lot further away than just one recruiting class from being great on defense again.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
The system is broken on defense. And you guys know, I like Mike, we get along.
Well, it's the development.
I don't like saying it.
The development of players. And, the thing about it is like people are going to sit out there, and I think most people are going to hear this and think we're basically shitting on Mike Stoops because and saying that he can't coach, which I'm not necessarily saying that. I think it's more of they need a new voice. They need a new sense of purpose.
What they're doing isn't working.
Right.
What's their identity as a defense?
Well,
they haven't had one for years.
It's been years.
Well, I mean, you can't recruit if you don't know what the heck you're looking for.
Yeah, what system are you recruiting to? How are you plugging them in? How are they getting better at those roles? I mean, that's important.
A new voice is needed, just as much as a new voice was needed on the offensive side of the ball 4 years ago.
After Heupel,
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. For sure.
No, it's very similar to where OU's offense was under Josh Heupel in 2014. It's almost identical to me. Like you're just wandering around lost in space.
Yeah. That's not a bad story idea. Try to look at parallels.
Welcome to our budget meeting. All right. Any last thoughts before we get out of here? TCU coming up. It's going to be a rough couple of weeks.
Not just
bye week coming up.
We don't know what our schedule is, when we're getting players, who those players
Lincoln
are
Riley
going to
press
be.
conference coming up this
press
week.
conference Monday, so we'll just have to figure it all out.
I will be watching the Lincoln Riley coaches show shortly after this, just to see how insane it makes everyone. God, we might have to play some of that on the podcast on Wednesday. I don't know if Eddie can handle it. Judging by what I'm hearing, so
how do you think Dean's acting with it?
Who cares?
Okay, so that is your Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. Appreciate everybody from listening. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 F-bombs.
There's one from
One
you.
from Josh.
There's one from you.
One from me.
That you missed.
Pray.
Oh, God.
Pray for me.
So 10 F-bombs in this. That's a record. I don't even have to go back and look. That's a record. Shit, now I got to go find my F-bomb.
I know.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks to Josh for joining us. Thanks to Eddie and Bob. It's been a long weekend, a fun weekend. It's been a crazy weekend. It's going to be crazier in the weeks to come. Go check us out at Soonerscoop.com. Don't abandon us just because the team sucks, okay? Just because the defense sucks. Just keep supporting us, please. We need to keep our jobs. So thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll be right back here after the TCU game. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about putting something together special for the bye week. But thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time right back here on the Eskridge Lexus, Soonerscoop.com postgame podcast.